Assassin's Promise by Thomas Woodward, Chapter 149. Calian blocked, then parried the next blow. He hadn't truly expected to be free of the cut purses, after such a large audience had seen him overtaken earlier. Most lords were not foolish enough to travel alone, and certainly would not deign to walk on foot. While distracted from the gold he had given freely earlier, Calian had palmed a short knife from one of the cut purses. That blade became useful now. Stopping the next man, as Calian pulled an underhanded stroke, drawing blood in a wide gash along his current assailant's stomach. The man screamed, falling back into piles of refuse that littered the side street. Calian preferred to face the two men now, before they gained others who were eager to spill a lordling's blood during the chaos of the festival. The city guard were already at their limit, having been spread thin throughout much of the city, with particular focus on the gates. Travelers would come from far off to partake, and many were less than scrupulous with their intentions. Spinning, Calian took the other man in the ribs, blood spattering back against his new cloak and golden mask. It blended in perfectly with the blood-red dye of the cape. The man rattled gibberish against him as he cried out from the pain. Calian bashed him against the stone wall of the alley before wiping away the remainder of the blood. One of the men struggled on the ground to crawl away, but Calian knelt quietly next to the gasping man and drove the point of his blade deep into the base of the man's neck. A short shriek of agony cut off abruptly as Calian twisted once, ending the man's life. He had seen a similar maneuver used on the battlefield. Adrenaline coursed through him. His breath came quick and ragged, but he had avoided injury. Kneeling quickly, Calian removed a pair of battered iron daggers one of the two men were carrying and secreted them into his outfit. He might need them. After the pounding of his heart lessened a bit, Calian looked towards the mouth of the alley. There in the distance, he could see the swell of a great crowd that had gathered. Thinking of the beautiful dancer, he knew they had gathered for her. Calian stepped out carefully and moved to follow at a distance. Gods beyond, but Minerva was beautiful. A creature of flame and spinning silks, she moved like a spirit, in and out of the strange, dreamlike dance. Calian could hear a myriad of drummers playing, anticipating her every movement with their slow, steady beat. And there he was, sitting on an erected throne, flanked by a contingent of armed men, Azric. His eyes were entranced, taking in each new movement of the hot-blooded dancer as readily as his next breath. He did not see Calian standing at the edge of the crowd that had gathered there. He could not know. Calian brushed next to a cluster of darkly dressed merchants, their eyes captivated on the prize before them. For Calian had no doubt that men would wish to possess a talent so rare as Minerva's. Such would bring great fortune to any house. Where had she come from? What land had the strange troupe hailed from? He didn't recognize any of the quick staccato beats that pounded against him like an assault as the music raged on. The drummers were deeply tanned and had strange curving smiles. They had their hair gathered into unruly mops, or strange long braids, with colorful tassels at the ends. Beautiful. Calian had never considered something so daring himself. Shifting his gaze, Calian studied the crowd. Onlookers watched, whispering in low voices, not wanting to disturb the performance that was unfolding. Who wanted Azric dead? Could it be someone here? Calian flicked his eyes from a beggar woman who moved one of her hands through a tangled snarl of greasy hair, unconscious of her own movements, even as her mouth hung agape at a flourish that brought shouts of excitement from the crowd. A reedy man spat into the street, looking away in disgust as others crowded in front of him. Looking past them, Calian saw a young gentleman who smiled appreciatively as Minerva turned in a series of graceful arcs. How can I find the assassin? There must be a way. Calian knew little of what forces now dominated the streets of Caliapos. So many things had changed since he had left the city years ago. Where had the time gone? Only a few years ago, he had been a lad of 17. No, that wasn't right. How had age come upon him with such sly fingers? His 30th year had come and gone. He was no longer a youth. Calian looked more intently at the crowd. What was he looking for? Would he know when he saw it? How could one tell an assassin from other men, or a woman? It could be either, perhaps even a child. It did not necessarily take strength to kill. A child's hand was just as deadly upon the poisoned cup as a man's would be. Unlike Azric's houseguard, Calian could not even let anyone know the nature of his purpose. He acted alone, and would die alone if he were caught, he thought with a shudder. Azric had promised to keep him as informed as possible, and well stocked in any items that he might require for the task. Why did the man trust him so blindly? Had he been the man's only friend? Questions and no answers. Letting the unanswered questions drop for the moment, Calian sat back on his heels to take in the end of the performance, for it was strong and sweet as the hint of spices just beyond touch. Minerva's dance reminded him of his own mortality. The beauty and grace of her movements turned his blood to fire. At last she bowed, a full dip from her navel, bowing until her lacquered nails brushed the ground with a lover's caress. The thunder of hundreds of hands clapped in response. Calian felt a giddiness that comes with the feel of a new lover, open to his arms. He stood, drinking in contentment, appeased for the moment. The blood and bruises of recent events were forgotten.